What does your company need most? So if you have a bunch of activities that you have to be doing all the time, and you're just worried about letting things slip through the cracks, then, a way to keep scattered tasks organized. If you're doing these big projects and you want to make sure everything goes step by step as it's supposed to, then that would be the second option. If you want project management that's really flexible and agile, then that would be the third option. But if you're mostly looking for more communication tools, that would be the fourth option. Okay. All right, I'll give this another 10 seconds. Cool. So it looks like we have a pretty good spread of people who want a way to keep scattered tasks organized and a really flexible project management tool. And then some people who want more options for communication and a structured project management tool. So that sounds great. We're going to go through pretty much all of those things. I'm going to kind of focus a little more on this idea of, keeping a lot of people in contact, keeping people using your software, rather than kind of the more technical aspects, which I think you're more likely to find in help documentation anyways. But as we go through, my coworker Dylan is going to be answering your questions. And I will check in every once in a while. So if there's something you really want to see, feel free to send it in the chat or in questions, and I'll try to incorporate it into the presentation. But that said, let's get going. So we're all here for one reason, and that is that working remotely is hard. It's hard to stay organized, hard to maintain efficiency. It really just goes on and on and on. There's just so many things that are just really difficult that we have to adapt to that we maybe took for granted when we were working maybe in an office with our peers, or even having one or two people around who we could kind of talk through what we're doing with. So what we want to do is regain some of that control. So how do we do that? The main way that we're going to be able to do that is with open and frequent communication paired with effective organization. So when we talk about communication, that can mean, in the very traditional sense, something like email or meeting or click, where you're just communicating with someone. But a lot of the time that also refers to making sure that you can communicate and leave notes on tasks as you go along, to make sure that everyone knows what's happening wherever you are in the process. So the three main tools that we're going to look at today, you might be surprised to see Connect on here if you've never used it, or if you've used the more intranet features. But this is a really great way to give people an opportunity to just use their own task board and create their own very light, easy to use, intuitive project management tool. Projects is our more structured waterfall project management tool. So a really traditional project management tool. You start your project, you know when it has to end, and you know all the steps to get there. That's what Projects is for. Sprints tends to be a little bit more niche. Sprints is an agile project management tool. So the thing it does really well is adapt to change. So this is for a project where maybe you know where you're starting, you know where you want to end up, but you don't really know how you're going to get there. You just need something to kind of keep the ball rolling, make sure everyone knows when it's their turn to do something, and all of that. This product was, or this whole methodology was actually developed by developers for developers. So it's really great for developers of all kinds, product developers, software developers, and also for design projects. But I have talked to customers who have used it in other ways, so that is also an option. So we are going to walk through a couple of, I'll kind of start just by walking through the different applications. We are taking a look at a company that, sorry, just a sec. Oh no. Hold on. I'm sorry. I have just realized I need to be doing this in Chrome. But so just if the way that this project works is this is a project made for um, a gardening company. And so they work with gardening supplies, they sell seeds, they sell tools, they sell all of that. And basically, what they need is to be able to access all of their, they need to be able to communicate with their customers. So they need to be able to not only put out information that is helpful, but connect with their customers on a more consistent basis. So I'm going to show you three different ways to do this. Okay, can everyone hear me? I just switched over to Chrome. Yes, okay, awesome, thank you. So I'm gonna walk you through three different ways to manage this. Um, I have my way that I prefer, but I also have ways that I would switch to were I working with a bigger team or trying to get things done in a different way. So we are going to look at these different ways of working. I'll check back in on the questions and chats as we go. But also at the end, if you're like, still, all right, well, if I have this and this, what should I use? We can go back to that as well. So to start off, this is Zoho Connect. So you might be more familiar with the feeds where different posts are going to show up if you've used this at all, because traditionally this is an intranet tool. It's a tool used to communicate with your coworkers through forums and posts and polls and all of that. It's already a really great tool if you're trying to keep people connected and keep a company culture alive as you move to working from home. Zoho is a company with offices all around the world. Even our team is split up half here, half in Pleasanton, with a couple of other people also in other offices around the world. So we are very used to trying to keep a company culture alive and communicating online on Connect instead of in the office. But it also has this other great tool called the tasks board. So you can come in here, and this is something that I've made for a content campaign that Karen Crow, who's the owner of this business, is trying to start. So this is actually based on something that me and Dylan did last summer when we were creating this huge log of a ton of videos, and we just had like 40 or 50 videos to make, and so they lived in this giant board because we knew we would never be able to keep track of them otherwise. So I can come in here and I can take a look at these different sections. And I can say, all right, so we have our to-do section. I can basically come in, pick anything up and move it over to in progress if I'm already working on it. This was great because me or Dylan would be able to move a video over to in progress, and then the other person wouldn't get started on that video, so we weren't duplicating work. You can move it over to in review, so you know that, all right, well, I need to check on this, but there's no active work I can be doing. Same with waiting on assets, and then you can move it over to done. So a few ways that I think that this is a really helpful board, or a few cases in which it's really helpful. One is if you are trying to get as many people as possible to just kind of get used to putting all of their tasks in one place so things don't slip through the cracks. That's what I think this is a really great thing for, especially if you're already using Connect. But if you're not, a great reason to start using Connect because this tool is right here. And so if you're already spending some time in Connect, then it's a lot easier to get people to use this module. Another thing is that it's really easy to color code. As you can see, there are a lot of nice colors on this board, and I don't know about you, but when I am staring at a list of tasks that I have to do, I want to at least inject some joy in there by having some pretty colors. So I can come in here and I can look at this. And I know that this is high priority because over here it had a little red bar. I also know that this is a webinar task. And I can see all of the different things that I need to do for this task, along with the entire history of the task. So I have a lot of information that I can actually get just by glancing at this board. I can tell that this is something that was due yesterday. So this is maybe something that I should be getting on right now. Um, and I can also see what the different tags are. And this was really useful because we were building all of this content, but sometimes you need to know where it's going to end up. It helps you kind of break down your bigger projects into these little bite-sized bits. And that way you can also do, you can also create tasks that don't necessarily relate, but you have a lot of tasks that you know you need to keep track of anyways, and you say maybe some are email communication, you could tag all of them that, and you could tag some of them just like check-ins you need to do daily. For this post on Instagram, I actually have this as a repeating task, so every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's going to create this task again, and I just need to come in here, do the task, and move it over. So as I move this task over to in progress, its status is going to change to in progress. And it, oh, sorry, there it is. And when I move it along this kind of little coaster that I've created, it'll change the statuses there as well. And this can be really useful, especially when you're trying to filter everything you're looking at. Maybe you just want to look at everything that's in review so you can contact everyone who's supposed to review it and be like, hey, did you get a chance to look at that? It just helps to have a lot of different metadata associated with each task when it comes to using them. And then when I pull this over here to the done column, it is going to close the task. So most of this is just stuff that you can set right when you create a task. This is kind of the thing about Connect. It has more depth than you would expect, but mostly the draw is it's really easy to use, really intuitive, and it has everything you need right here. The only thing that I did for these that goes kind of beyond that was go into this tab. So you see there's a little drop down arrow, hit actions, add actions, and I changed the task status whenever it went into a different column. You could also add a due date or notify someone or move it to another board. So maybe you're like, all right, well, this is my writing board. And then once I'm done writing, I need to send it to the video team. And so that'll just move to their board. And then I can also assign tasks to members. And this is a big one because if I am making all the videos and someone else is reviewing them, then when I pull a task into in review, it could automatically assign that task to the person who is doing review instead of it just remaining with me. So it's just a very handy kind of day-to-day organizer. The other great thing about it is that it integrates with Zoho Projects. So this is a board I made and run entirely in Zoho Connect. There's a lot of great information here. I like it a lot. I think it's really easy to use. But also, sometimes you need to be able to use kind of a bigger project management tool. And we're going to look at projects in a minute, but first I want to show you what it looks like when I've created something in projects and then it's gotten pulled into Connect. So I have not touched this at all. As you can see, it doesn't have quite the same amount of metadata, but I can now go in and change all of that. And this is pulled in automatically. I have not even looked at this until this very moment. So this is a really great way to get more people using the project management software. I am sure we have all had the frustrating problem of we find a new tool that, or a new system that we're going to use for project management or for just keeping up with our tasks, and we send it out to everyone, and half of the people just do not do it. And we are kind of trying to figure out, like, all right, well, what can we do to just get people the information and get them to update the information so it's useful for the people who actually use it. And this is a great way to do that. So with all of this content in here, I can even come in and I can close tasks. I can open it in Zoho Projects. And this is great because it means that even if I am not going to use projects, but I see Connect and I'm like, well, that looks easy, I can handle that. I can get the same information and I can update the same information. And that also means that I can view it up here in my tasks. And these are going to be all the tasks sorted by date that I have to do. So it's a great way to pull in information. This is essentially the tool that I say to use if you're trying to get kind of either more stubborn people or people who just don't need that much to use a task management tool. This is what I use most of the time because most of my projects are not quite big enough for projects or sprints. But you can also use those tools for a similar function. I'm going to pop over and check out some of the comments. See if there's anywhere anyone wants to go. Okay, so yeah, we have a question that's there are so many task managers in Zoho One. Why Connect versus Mail versus Projects? Also, can Connect information be funneled into Click like many other apps so I can be alerted and reminded of things going on there without having to? Yeah, so hopefully by the end of this presentation, it will be clear. That is kind of my goal of what I can pass on to you today is why you would use the different task managers. The only one of these I would say is Mail's task manager is currently undergoing a revamp, so I wouldn't use it at the moment if you have these other tools available, but it will be getting kind of a facelift pretty soon. It will be a little bit more powerful. It's going to have a Kanban board similar to this and all of that. And so you asked about if you could get alerts through Click. I want to say the answer is yes, but I am drawing a blank for sure. So I will either maybe Dylan can find the answer for you, or I can answer that question for you later via email. Okay, so how can we monitor my employees' work they're doing from home? So basically, the best way to do this, there's some functionality built into this in other places, such as Click's new remote work function. But I think that the best way to do this is by having people log their time. So you can either do that or even just have them even just like log their tasks. And that is really well handled by sprints and projects. You can do it a little bit in Connect, but Connect is less for monitoring and more for just having everything in one place. Will the new Mail tasks integrate fully with Connect? So this is kind of a longer term project, but yes, eventually all of the tasks will be combined as one and everything will work seamlessly together. Okay, so let's take a look. So that's what I will leave with Connect. Let's take a look at projects. Again, we can come back to any of these apps at the end once you all have kind of a vague idea of where to go. So now let's say that we want to do this campaign, but this is a little more of a big deal. This is a little more, there are more people who are working on this. We have deadlines we really have to hit. We've done this before, so we know what the timeline is going to look like. And maybe we're even working with an outside agency, so we really have to get things to them on time. So for that kind of an approach, I would use Zoho Projects. So right now, you can see there's not a ton of data in here because it is new, but this I can show you kind of what invoices are going to look like if there is interest. But you can see your task status, you can see all of your tags, your overdue work items, and then today's work items. This is basically the dashboard that I say you kind of keep one eye on all the time. because it will tell you if there are any fires you need to put out, and it will tell you if you're generally going in the right direction. But you're not going to spend that much time here. So, as I said before, Projects is a waterfall project management tool. So, what that means is that essentially you have the project at the top, and this is the most contextual view you can get. And then it's broken down into these chunks that make it easier and easier to get more detail, but pull you away from that context. So, for example, we have our milestones. Our first milestone is we need to create content, and then we need to launch our ad campaign, which we're working on with an outside agency, and then we need to deliver our webinars. So I'm going to take a look and create content milestone. And in here, you can see we have 3 task lists. And I can go into any of these, like let's say we look at video series, and this is where I get a lot of detail. So I have this information, all right, what is this task called? Who is the owner? What's the status? The tags. Yuck means it's bureaucracy and sending emails and stuff, because that is not my favorite part of the job. And then you can come over here and see more things like work hours, the time log, and all of that. And then if you want to get even more information, you can click into the task here, and you can see that even deeper down, I have subtasks. And these subtasks are essentially just parts of the bigger task at hand. How you organize these is entirely up to you. If you're like, why would I use a subtask when I could just make tasks? Don't use subtasks. But if you are thinking, all right, well, I have these 10 tasks that need to happen and the subtasks are the same every time, then yeah, you can definitely associate all of the subtasks, and then you can copy your task and just change the name. When you go into these subtasks, you get just the same amount of detail and all of that. So this is a really great way to really be able to drill down into your information. So let's take a look at some of the other things you can do from in here. So you can leave comments. This is also true of Connect, actually. All of the products have this feature where you can leave comments. This is a really important part of the communication aspect of keeping everyone in the loop, because when you look at something and you have feedback or you have a problem with it, best practice is to always leave a comment right away so that everyone else can benefit from that realization you had. And then we have our subtasks, and then we have log hours. So there are a couple of different things that we are doing. So when we have a task, you can take a look at the work hours, and then you can take a look at the log hours. Work hours are essentially just what we do when we are planning the project and we are trying to guess how long it's going to take, or maybe we just know how long it takes every time. So I could come in here and say, all right, well, this one's going to take 4 hours. And then that is great information that I can use in reporting. But the amount of hours that it actually takes would be dealt with in log hours. So I can come into the log and I can log as many hours as it took me. You can set all of the permissions for who can log what hours as you want to. You can leave notes and add them right there. Another thing we can associate with these tasks is documents. So let's say that we have a document in WorkDrive, but you could, of course, also upload this from your computer. WorkDrive is our team-based cloud document storage solution. So it's very similar to Google Drive, and it's just hosting all of our documents that we want to keep on the cloud. So in here, I have a document called gardening doc. And let's say I want to associate it with this, because this is something that you might need to refer back to when you are reviewing this task later. Maybe you need to review it because the hours are off, or maybe you need to review it because you just forgot what was decided at a certain meeting. And this way you can come in here and just see this great document with some great information, and you don't have to worry about it. So this is actually a link to the document in WorkDrive. So you can also edit it from here, and you're not going to be creating a bunch of duplicate documents that will just float around forever. You can also download these documents. You could download it as a Word file if you wanted to, or a PDF. And you can also upload Word files and then open and edit them the same way in WorkDrive and Zoho Writer. From here, I can also see any dependencies that this has. So you can see that, all right, well, saving the blog post and sending it for review are dependent on this task. So that way I know kind of who I'm holding up and who I need to let know if things are taking a while. And then as far as integrations from here, I can also start a click message and send that to whoever I need to, maybe just participants about this particular task. And I can also launch a meeting from Zoho Meeting. So that is basically the gist of the just sheer amount of detail you can get on each of these tasks. So that is kind of how the drill down works if you come at it from the milestones module. You can also come at it from the tasks module. So here I can see everything. I can see what milestone it's in, what task list it's in, and I can see here we have these tiered ones because we have task and then the subtasks. So this is a great way to get a lot of information. From here, you can also do some very cool things like if I see this and I need to add someone to it, I can get information. So here you can see there's nothing. Let me see if I can find one that has some other things. But basically when you assign, when I assign a task, I can see how many tasks each person that I am trying to assign it to has. So maybe if I had 10 tasks and Maria had 2 tasks, I would assign this to Maria. And great, now they're both associated to that task. You can also filter this view however you want. So you can filter it by tags, and maybe you just want to see all of your written content. You could filter it by priority or by due date or by owner. So you have a lot of flexibility here. If you want an even more, in my opinion, overwhelming way to look at all this, you can just make it a big list with no differentiation. But again, this is a great way to just get a lot of information all at once. And it's a little less strain on the eyes than an Excel sheet, in my opinion. And then you can also look at things in a Kanban. And so this is much closer to what we saw in Connect. And you can view it in whatever way you want to. So I could maybe view this in task list. And if I wanted to, I could just leave it as status. And you can also customize these statuses. So I could have the same, multiple different statuses here just by clicking on this actually. And we're not going to do that, but you get the idea. I could add in review, waiting on assets, in progress, all right here. And then I can pull things over to here and it'll close the task. So if you like the idea of a Kanban board, but you want to keep things a little bit more in just like a project management focused space, you can definitely do that right here. Another way to view all of your tasks is in the calendar view. So if you just want to get an idea of like, all right, well, what does my week look like? You can look over here and see all of the different things. So we have our milestones, we have our different tasks. And if I want to just see my stuff, I can even come in here and just see, all right, well, what's assigned to me? Great. All right, this looks a little more doable. And this is just a really great way to visualize everything. So as you can see, there are just a lot of different ways to look at your information and to access your information. And that's partly because we understand that everyone has a different style of project management. And so we just want to give everyone the opportunity to see the information in the way that makes the most sense to them. And of course, you also have the option to see that data in Connect in this little board right here. So coming down, I won't talk too much about this, but this is the time we just logged, and then I could invoice for it using this Zoho Books integration. And then we have a couple of reports. So this is a Gantt report. This is essentially a way to visualize what's dependent on what, and also make it easier to react to problems. So if I am having trouble writing the content and I don't know, I can't get to my computer until the next week, I can take this and move it over. I think it's not moving because I associate it with something. Um, but you can essentially move things over like this, and it will push all of the other tasks back. And that makes it a little bit easier to react quickly to things changing. So if I know that something is going to move, then I can just move it over and it'll push everything else back, and I can tell the client right away, hey, this isn't going to arrive on time. So that is kind of the big picture of projects. Again, this is a great tool. I really like using it for these kind of bigger picture, more structured projects. I also like it because with tags, you can really filter down what you're looking at and how. And it does give you a lot of great reports that you really do not need to do anything for. You just enter your work hours, log your hours as you go. Even if you're not going to bill for them, it just helps you get an idea of how much you should be charging clients, or how much time you should be allocating for things. And the reports will just run themselves as you do your project. So that is my overview of projects. Let me see if we have questions that I can answer about this. Okay, cool. It looks like Dylan has answered most of the questions here. So let's take a look at sprints, which is much more agile, but a little less, but definitely less structured. And then we can go through, and if you all have questions about how you would manage a certain thing, or you want to see something again or see something else in one of the apps we went over, we can definitely do that. So this is Zoho Sprints. This dashboard is beautiful, very easy to look at. Kind of same thing as projects, where it's just going to run everything for you. This is not a place to drill into your data and get a bunch of information, but it's a great place to check in at the beginning of the day. This is great if you have a competitive mind and want to feed that because it's kind of illustrating productivity for you as you go. But the meat of this product is really here in the project backlog and sprint backlog. So I won't go too much into it, but the way that agile methodology works, which is what this product was designed for, is essentially you take all of the things you know you need to do for a project, you dump them into a project backlog, and then you break them up into sprints, which are usually 1 to 2 week long um, spans of time where you're working on a series of these items. And every day you're going to have a meeting with everyone and figure out, all right, well, where are we at? What is stopping you from doing your work? How can we keep things moving? So you get the same kind of efficiency and um, mobility from this product as you do from a more structured one, but you're just not looking as far into the future. And this is great if you're like, okay, well, I know what I need to do over the next 2 weeks or the next month, but this is a 6-month long project, and I don't know what those last 4 months are going to look like until I do these first 2 months. The project backlog, you can always add stuff to. You can always just create another sprint, and it just works with the assumption that projects are always changing. I have talked to a customer who uses this just as a way to hold all of these ideas when he travels so that everyone can see them and group them into different ways. So that's also an option. But as far as using it kind of the way that it was designed, it's going to go a little more like this. So I have all of these items in here that I know I need to do. This is not everything that I will do for this project. It's just the stuff that I could think of right off the bat. So the first thing I'm working on is in the next week, I want to finish this raised bed video. So I have a story right here that's how to build a raised bed. I can add a description that says, all right, this is what we're doing. This is our goal, all of that. And then I have the different tasks that I need to do to get it done. So if I look at this and I'm like, all right, it is time to start this sprint, then I will hit start. Yeah, we're going to start it today. It'll be done in a week. And it's going to automatically create this board for me. So I now have that same kind of Kanban view, but it's just in this bite-sized section so that I can see what I need to do. And I can just boom, 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 do it as I go. So I can come over here and I can take this and move it in here. I can view all of the information the same way you can in projects, leave all of those comments, upload any attachments. I have all of the same visibility of information here. But the interface that I'm mostly going to be working with is just, all right, we're just moving the things from one place to the other. And then when I'm done, I'm done. Woo, I did it. I finished the sprint. And so this means that I can now start another sprint. I can look at other things and I can make a new bite-sized board for myself. You can't have multiple sprints starting at the same time. You can make them longer than 7 days. That's just kind of the arbitrary number I picked. And you can also start conversations and click the same way you can in projects. A couple of other modules in sprints. So we have epics. You don't have to use this. This is essentially something for if you're trying to get these bigger goals as you go. So we have this introductory content for new gardeners. That's content we want to work on. We need to work on our website and make it a little more accessible to our customers. And we want to establish a bigger online presence. So these are all kind of these big scale parts of this one project. So you can organize things like this. It'll show you your backlog. It'll show you, what you finished. The big thing about Agile is that there are a lot of words like, epics and Scrum and all of that that you can learn about if you want to, but you also don't have to. I would say if you're just using the backlog, sprint backlog, and the boards, you're already going to get a lot of value out of this product. So then we'll look at the release module. This is great if you are looking to release a bunch of stuff. You essentially just move things along same way. So they're just different ways that you can interact with this stuff. Sprints is a little more structured to give you a lot of insight into how productive you and your employees are being. So you can see here, I can see, all right, well, here's how much I have to do and here's how much I've done. You can see how much gets done day to day. You can see, all right, well, what's my backlog look like? Who's really engaged? You get a lot of insight right here. So this is a great way to kind of keep everyone engaged. But I think for a lot of people, it can be a little bit too freeform. So this really is best if you're truly kind of doing something new and trying to develop something as you go. Otherwise, one of the other products might work a little bit better. You can also log time in here and you can have meetings in here. So you could schedule a meeting because again, you want to be having these meetings all the time. So that's just another module you have. But that is really the crux of sprints. So I've kind of given you an overview of all of these. I want to go now to questions. And again, please feel free to ask these kind of like bigger scale questions, like what is best to do for a certain kind of project or anything like that. And I will try to answer them. Okay, so we have one question. Are there templates available as we build out the projects? Yes, let's take a look at the templates. So if I have this project here and I come down into the settings and click on templates, I can see all of my templates for what I have. So let's actually take this and turn it into a template. So a lot of the time when you are working on a project, you know that it's a project that you're going to need to access more than once. Like templates, projects are usually not something where you do it and then you're done and you're never going to do it again. Probably it's something that with your business plan, you're doing pretty frequently. And so you want to be able to get that control. So let's say this is a content campaign. Then I can come in here and add the overview. I can figure out my task layout. I can figure out what tags I want here. And I can also do the budget. So you have a lot of options for the budget, whether you want it to be based on milestones and tasks or just the overall project, and also whether you want to bill based on staff hours or based on a fixed cost. So we're just going to add this template. It might take a minute to all settle in, but basically it's going to be a skeleton of that original project. So instead of having all of this information about the date and reflecting kind of what we are doing right now for this iteration of the project, it's just going to make kind of the hollow shell of it. So I can come in here and I can view these things, and instead of saying, all right, well, it's going to start on next Thursday, it'll say this will start after 12 days and it'll last for this many days. So you can really just put it anywhere on the calendar and it'll work. And you can even set work days and holidays so that it will not put tasks on weekends or holidays. Okay, what is best to use if you want to have a tree type of project management? One main goal followed by sub goals and then tasks. So projects is probably the best thing to use for that. If you have kind of this one project that you want to have the kind of contextual view and then a lot more detail, projects really provides that in a really powerful way. But also if you're looking at projects and you're like, that's maybe a little much. You can also start off by just turning a lot of it off. And this I definitely recommend. So you can always come in here and be like, all right, well, I'm not using that. I'm not using that. And you can create this much more streamlined, less deep, but maybe more useful to you way to view your project. So even if I have only one goal, I can still get a lot of use out of projects because it makes it easier for me to visualize all that stuff. And it really does go off of the assumption that you have kind of this waterfall need. Okay, what is best to, oh wait, no, we got that one, cool. All right, so it looks like we got most of the questions. That is we do have 15 minutes left, so I can keep going. I'm happy to go back to anything. I'm happy to go more in depth on something. I'm also happy to tackle any project management big picture questions you've been struggling with. Really, we can take this wherever you're interested in going, whatever would be useful to you. Okay, so there are currently no pre-built templates, but that's definitely something I can pass along to the team as a request. Yes, there will be a recording of this webinar. I'm not sure what you mean by how do you schedule time to review all this? Okay, if we create hundreds of the same projects over and over again, but each new project is for a new client, is there a way to build a project template? So yes, so that is kind of what I just showed you. So you can always just change the client or not have the client filled out. Actually, every time you deploy a new project, you're gonna select a new client. So you don't need to, so yes, it's not gonna like lock you into just using that template for a single individual client. Is all of this functionality available in Zoho One? Yes, it is. Sprints should be in there. You might need to go into Zoho One and click on the admin panel and click on Add Applications because Sprints is definitely part of Zoho One. Please show me all the ways to integrate Connect with the rest of the Zoho One products. Connect seems to be a little isolated. All right, let's look at the integrations here. So we can come into click and take a look at, God, I'm forgetting how to do this. Basically, every product is going to have a little marketplace or integrations hub. So for projects, it's here. And so for Connect on this end, wow, how did I think this integration is on, oh, okay, wait, I'm sorry. I just remembered. So Connect does have certain integrations already built in. So I can enable Zoho mail tasks. That's great. That's new. So if you wanted to put tasks into your mail tasks and then view them in Connect, definitely doable. You can enable a Sprints integration, and you can do a Zoho Projects integration. Beyond that, there aren't a ton of integrations that we have. There are a couple of things you can do, but they're mostly project management based. Yeah, beyond that, I think it would depend what you're looking for. Okay, do you review all this every day for all projects, or do you rely? Okay, so you can. So this question is: do you review all of this information every day for every project, or do you rely on notifications of tasks to keep you going? So this depends on you and your team and how many people are working on a project, as well as how much time they're spending with the project. So I can go into the settings. So we're in Zoho Projects again. I can go into the setup and go to notifications, and I can turn on a bunch of notifications to make sure that I always know when something is coming up, and everyone else does as well. I do also get notifications up here, this little bell, and you can also get notifications in Connect for the same thing. So you can see I have a task reminder here. So yes, you can do just automated messages. But if you mostly have, one person working in projects and everyone else is just kind of um, doing their work and reporting back to that person, you might not need to send notifications out to everyone. So it kind of depends on you and what you're interested in doing and whether you have a specific project delivery person or not. I hope that helps. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else cool I can show you here. Oh, one thing that's kind of interesting is there's a pretty new integration between sprints and projects. So if you are someone where you're like, well, I want to work in projects, but I know my developer team wants to work in sprints, but I want to be able to view it all from the same place, you can actually just come in here. So you just go settings, Zoho Projects, and you can turn on this integration, which will make it so that you can see all of your agile projects in here as well and be able to manage them from there. So if you're really torn between the two, that is an option. And that can be kind of useful for someone who's trying to do a lot of different kinds of projects. Um, One kind of tip that I didn't talk about when it comes to projects, this is really just actually, this is a tip across the board. One thing that I think is really important that I never realized is that it's really important to set up all of your metadata right when you're creating the tasks. I spent months wondering why none of my reporting was working before I realized that I hadn't set any of my work hours. So you need to set your work hours right away. Ideally, you want to set your tags right away, and assign it whenever you know who it's going to be assigned to, along with the due dates, because that is what gets all of your reporting running. And otherwise, you're just going to run into this point where you're like, why can't I use this feature? And then you have to go through and one by one change all of the information on every individual task. Okay, what can external clients do when invited to a project? So, external clients can basically view and comment on things, so they can't change the status of anything. But it does give them the ability to look at things and then to, comment on them and say, "Hey, why is this going like this? I thought we decided on this." It's the client portal in projects is mostly a really great tool to make sure that clients aren't emailing you every 2 days asking when the project is going to be done, even though you already told them when the project is going to be done. So it's really for monitoring and commenting on things. Okay, so it looks like, okay, why isn't Work Drive available in Connect? Um, I don't know. I wish it was. I think it will be soon. I wish I had a good answer for you on that. Um, but it's probably just because the integrations for Work Drive are relatively new, um, and they haven't gotten to it yet, but uh, it will be there one day. It will be the Work Drive integration will be everywhere. Okay, do we have any other questions regarding any of these things? Again, when it comes to choosing which one is right for you, a lot of it is going to come down to what will you use and what will your employees use. If you know that your employees are not good at keeping, really not good at going to a bunch of different applications and interacting with things, maybe you want to give them something a little easier to get started with, like Connect. But if your team really needs something bigger and you can reliably keep that up to date, Projects is a really great way to go. And then if you need something really agile for kind of development projects, Sprints is the thing I would start with. But that said, if you, while watching this, you were like, I would never use this product, but that product looks great, even though I wouldn't use all of the stuff in it, that is also a completely fine way to use the product. The products are there for you. You can definitely just use a little bit of them, or you can use the whole thing. And I think that even if you are like, well, I don't need projects now, but maybe I'll need it one day, it can be a good idea to kind of build out your projects in projects and maybe disable some of these modules. And then you can also interact with it here. And that way, when you do get to the point where you're like, all right, we need we need projects, we need the structure, then you can uh, just switch over to projects and you'll already have a good foundation of how to use it. Okay. So as far as the question of why you would use manuals instead of Write or Work Drive, I have not used manuals either. Dylan can answer that, or I can get back to you after the presentation today. Let me go through here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. I think we got it all. I really hope this was helpful to all of you. Again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to walk you through anything that I did. I'm happy to walk you through how I set things up a little bit. But hopefully you now kind of have a good idea of, all right, well, here is the app I want to try using, and I can get started on that. Okay, one more questions. Can Connect events land on my Zoho calendar? God, I also don't know the answer to that. Let me look into that. I will email you after this, and uh, we can let you know all of the different answers to your questions. Oh, interesting. So Rochelle said that be interested in joining a group that is tasked with setting up their project in session and ask questions as we go along. Um, that's a great idea. We are looking for kind of like new content that can be helpful for online. So maybe that's something that we will consider. Okay, when keeping track of tasks for different customers, can I use Connect and have it associated with them? If you need to associate things with a customer, you should really be using projects. Instead, it just has a lot more functionality. It integrates with books, so you can actually associate a customer with in the finance section and all of that. Where can you find a recording of this webinar? This webinar recording might get sent out to you in email, and if it does not, you can look at the zoho.com/one/webinars, and then you can go to recorded webinars, and it should be there pretty soon. Great. Well, thank you guys all so much. I'll hang out for the next 2 minutes and see if anyone has any other questions. Um, and then we can, but yeah, everyone have a great day. Okay, I work with individuals. It would be unwieldy to make an account. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, so one question about how to associate a project with a contact, I assume in CRM. Um, I have never tried to do that. So let's see, project two-way sync. Okay, cool. I don't know if that is possible, but let me take a look into it and I will email you after this project. And then hopefully I'll be able to answer your question. But that is a good question. That is also something I would like to know. Okay, what is Zia supposed to do in projects? Yeah, let's look at Zia. So Zia is Zoho's AI assistant. And in projects, you can see she lives down here, and you can do a few different things. So I can say, and when you first open it, it's actually going to give you a menu of options, but I can come in here and say, create, and then it'll be like, all right, well, what do you want to create? I can say, let's create a task. And then it will give me all of these different questions. So I can say, we're going to make a task here. What's the task name? So basically, this is just another way to add things to your project right now. It's another kind of interactions, another interface for getting new tasks or new events or whatever. So this can be really helpful, especially if you are working in one project, but you're like, oh, I need to add something to somewhere else, but I don't want to deal with it right now. I don't want to go diving into this other project and then lose my place. So you can just come in here and add the task. And we'll say that this task is plant more flowers. Can you tell I am deep in the quarantine hobbies? It was either this, roller skating, or sourdough. All right, do you want to add more details? I can say yes, and then it'll give me all of this information. Like, all right, well, where do you want to put this? We'll put this in social. And I can mention, we will say Tessa is going to take care of this one, and I can give it medium priority. Great, and now it's created that task. So it will probably do more stuff in the future. Yeah, if you get lonely working from home, absolutely chat with Zia. It's just, it's nice to have another way to add things to projects, especially if you are in this kind of home screen, which gives you your big picture stuff, and you look at something and you're like, oh no, this person has a lot of stuff, and you just realize you have to add something, and you can just do it all from right in here. Okay, cool. I'm going to wrap up. I really hope this was helpful for all of you. And we will, I'll see you at the next webinar. Bye, everyone.